Now, you've had a couple of minutes to read through these results. It looks like on most measures and the look ahead, we're seeing a beat, and you can see that in shares. Matt, what is your reaction?
Yeah, I think they hit the buy side expectations exactly. So what we'd been hearing beforehand, 57 billion on the top line, and then guide for mid 60s is kind of what people wanted, and they delivered.
And let's go through some of the specifics here. We mentioned the third quarter data center revenue, $51.2 billion ahead of expectations, as Romain just walked us through. Commentary from Jen-Hsun Huang that when it comes to Blackwell sales, in his view, they are off the charts. What do you think is most important here? What was the one metric that you really think that they needed to hit?
I'm going to put two out there for you. I think the Q4 guide, so getting to that mid 60s number, it talks a little bit to concerns that spending might be peaking, right? It certainly doesn't look it from what they're guiding. And then the other piece is mid 70s gross margins, right? Colette's been telling us for the last few quarters that that's what they were targeting for Q4, and it looks like they're going to deliver.
And Colette, you're referring, of course, to Colette Crease, the CFO at the company there. When it comes to the other chips, I know we are all focused on Blackwell. I mean, of course, they're giving us an update on H2O as well, saying that those sales were also significant in the most recent quarter. I am curious, Matt, as to where you want to see kind of the balance between the various companies' products and divisions. I know they have sort of the winning horse right now, but at some point this industry shifts, and I am curious as to how you want NVIDIA to shift with it.
So I think from their perspective, one of the ways that they can grow revenue without necessarily needing the TAM to grow as quickly is move more into the products that are adjacent to their GPUs. So if they're shipping more Grace and more Vera, that adds to the revenue without necessarily customer spending more. Same thing with the networking side of things. So I think seeing better growth there is positive for the company. I also think that if you look at that next wave of spending, so if we're talking neoclouds, if we're talking sovereign data centers, they are more likely to buy the full stack of NVIDIA solutions. And so from my perspective, they're to some extent going to benefit from that setup.
And we should point out that most of those neoclouds are rallying here in the after-hours trade along with NVIDIA. And Nibius up about 4% here on the day. CoreWeave up about 3%. Matt, when you next hear from Jen-Hsun Huang later tonight, and I know he'll have some grand projections, grand ambitions for where he sees not just NVIDIA going, but as he says in the press release, the idea of just the AI ecosystem expanding. What is most important for him to say?
A lot of what he says, it's hard sitting in my seat to fully validate. So when they talk about there being a $3 trillion market, it's great to hear. It's optimistic, but it's 2030 is forever. So I guess the two things I'd love to hear: one, that Vera Rubin's progressing well. Right, it was a little bit of a struggle with Blackwell. If they execute better on Vera Rubin, that's great. And then, secondly, more inference. Right, if you step back a year, the concern was there weren't dollars being generated from AI. I'm running into more inference applications. I'd love to hear him kind of validate what I've been seeing, because inference drives revenue, which then obviates some of these concerns around is there enough money out there to pay for more data centers?
Right, and of course that call less than 34 minutes away. Matt, before we let you go, I do want to talk a little bit about China. We know that there's been restrictions on shipment of those advanced chips to China. Again, that's largely not locked NVIDIA out of that market. That doesn't seem to be a problem right now. You take a look at shares, but longer term, how are you thinking about that dynamic?
So one of my concerns there had really been that if you created this bifurcated state where you had China AI and US AI, that to some extent NVIDIA might end up losing, particularly if they weren't allowed to ship to other regions that were China adjacent or where chips might somehow gravitate into China. It seems like the US administration, today told you that they're not going to sign or they're not in favor of that act to basically advantage US customers. And then one of the things we've been hearing about China is that they're having a hard time manufacturing enough chips. And so, while it's a loss not to be able to ship into China, it feels like Nvidia is doing a great job dominating the rest of the world market.